Well, welcome everyone to our next Fashion Mingle session on sustainability. And I'm gonna get us on Facebook really quick and want to say hi to our mastermind team. Sharon, you're back in New York finally, right?
I'm back. It's great to be back, and there's so much snow. I'm looking forward to going out tonight and playing with the kids a little bit outside. But yeah, it's good to be back. I'm still adjusting to the time zone difference, so yeah.
I bet. So how long were you over in Europe?
6 months.
Wow, I can't believe it was that long.
I know. I can't believe it. End of August till now, right? So
Wow.
6 months. Total
Well, did it
adjustment.
feel safer and did you feel like you had more freedom?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were, basically in a mountain farm. So we were far away from a lot of things, and we were just hanging out and, trying to stay sane as everyone else was. But at least for the kids and for us, it was just so much nicer to be able to have the freedom and movement and not be worried about them, mingling and all of this rules that were being implemented here. So yeah, it was and of course we had help, which we don't get here in New York, so yeah. It was nice to have grandma and grandpa helping out a little bit, so that was nice. Yeah.
My daughter and granddaughter and husband, they actually moved up here because they were tired of going it alone in Texas.
Wow. But game changer. It's a game changer to have that. That's a luxury nowadays, for most parents. It's not what it used to be, that you can rely on, the grandparents or the family. It's everyone is, sort of on their own, and it makes things a lot harder. So I'm sure your daughter must be thrilled to have you around, and the kids must be thrilled to be around you as well, and your husband.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Kat, we're having trouble with Kat's Wi-Fi because they've got a storm out there on Staten Island. So we may not be able, she looks a little frozen. I was going to ask her about our New York Fashion Week event, but Dale, you look good.
Island.
How are you doing?
Yes, I am recuperating from COVID and feeling much better now.
Oh, so, thank goodness.
Yes, so, all is good. I'll be back at the office next week.
Yeah, poor Kat. We're just having a lot of trouble with your Wi-Fi. Definitely maybe try to use the phone again if that's any better. If not, feel free to, cancel out if it's not going to work today. I know everybody's got some crazy weather going on for our Texas members. We are thinking of you and praying that you guys get some relief really soon. I have family in Texas. I lived in Texas for 20 years. So I definitely, am feeling the pain and worry for everybody down there. So if you are able to get on from Texas today, congratulations. So I want to get started and introduce our wonderful guest today. I'm so excited to have Andrea, who's the chair of the New York City Fair Trade Coalition. Thanks for joining us, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, you have such a wonderful organization, and I'm always referring you guys to our members who are really looking for, real advice and mentorship on sustainable businesses. So tell us your background and how you got started working with the Fair Trade Coalition.
Sure. So I had my own business, and when I say had, I still have it, but it's evolved. So I began working with artisans in Uganda while I was still in school, actually. So I was first a member. It was a loosely affiliated networking group. And then in 2016, I became the chair, and we got it registered as a nonprofit and really kind of grew it from 20 business members to now almost 100 business members and almost 100 advocates. So it's really grown, and it's a really you know, as much as it's grown, we're a really tight-knit group where anytime anybody has a question or needs help, whether it's coming to me or our very ambitious and busy WhatsApp group, we always have resources and we're always willing to collaborate and help out.
Yeah, I am just amazed at how active the WhatsApp app group is. I see Kat on there all the time, and I poke in every once in a while and take a peek. But it really I was just like amazed with what you guys did at the beginning of the pandemic, putting together a side group that was working on the mask. But your regular WhatsApp group is just everybody's so helpful with sharing information and ideas. It's very impressive, but I'm sure it takes a lot of management on your part too.
So not at all. And I think that's
really?
the trick. That's
How
the,
do you do that?
The one thing she doesn't have to manage.
right. I cannot be the police officer here. I cannot, you know, monitor all that's going on. And I often think of the Fair Trade Coalition as more of a movement than, you know, a traditional nonprofit that says, this is our mission and this is what we do, right? With sustainable fashion, we're always learning and we're always growing, and it's very humbling because as soon as we feel like we have something figured out, right, we learn maybe that's not so sustainable, or maybe there is some environmental or social impact that we're not thinking of. So I really love to have the coalition grow and move with the members, right? So as some of our members are startups, they need some sort of services. As they grow, hopefully, and, you know, thrive, then new services are kind of brought on, and always, you know, filling in the white space, filling in the gap, but really letting them control the conversation and the narrative and letting us know, you know, what they need from us. And then, you know, it's kind of my job to connect them with the right people.
So we're a business level, so I kind of know how that works, and you invite us to everything, and we get your newsletter that tells us everything that's going on, which I think you do a fantastic job on. If you're an advocate, is that like for like the best spot for like a fashion designer, or like what is the difference between advocate and a business member?
Absolutely. So a business member, similar to yourself, we can think of somebody who's just starting. So, you know, maybe they're figure out some sort of supply chain, or they have some sort of design idea or concept going on. But then the advocate, a lot of the time, are people who are working in the industry, in the traditional fashion industry, but still want to find a way to participate in the sustainable fashion industry. Advocates are those who want to learn and then educate others, because it's just as important for us to infiltrate the traditional fashion industry as it is to have new companies kind of disrupt what's currently going on. So we wanted to come at it from multiple different angles. So with the Fair Trade Coalition, it really is unique to other fair trade groups where everyone can participate. There's a space for everyone. Even now we have a budding intern group. So a lot of students come to us and are looking either for resume builders or ways to learn more and grow skills. And then we connect these interns with our business members. So it's kind of a circular model going on here where, you know, hopefully our business members grow to a point where they're either hiring the advocates, right? And then can kind of, you know, those ones who don't want to have their own business, and then take on the interns, and we're all kind of growing and moving together.
Cool. So I know we've talked in the past that you are actually, there's different fair trade groups around the country that you do actually kind of have a lot of connection with. Can you tell us how that would help if you're not in New York City? Are there other groups in other cities that would be good for people to join?
Yeah, so I think we, you know, think of them as sister organizations. We're not really affiliated, but we're very close, and we chat with one another. And, you know, pre-COVID, we're going to each other's conferences and collaborating in different ways. So the two big ones are Chicago Fair Trade and Fair Trade LA. And not to get too much into the specifics, but they are actually designated fair trade cities and towns. They've gone through this process through fair trade campaigns. So they're the two largest organizations. And, you know, we actually share some members because the Fair Trade Coalition in New York, you know, we have members who are in Germany now. We have members throughout the United States, in other parts of Asia, because as you know, you yourself, New York is our hub, and maybe we touch down on here for a few months, but then go and visit our artisans or production. So while we were all traveling, we were all kind of moving all over the place. So it didn't really matter whether we were in New York or not. And it still kind of doesn't either, as we're all just living in the internet right now, right?
Right. Well, I know you used to have a monthly meetings at LIM College, and you're actually a member of the faculty there, right? Are you still doing that?
Yes.
You are, okay. And so obviously you're not meeting now, right? In the monthly meetings, but
No.
how has the pandemic altered the way you guys are working together, and have you started any new programs that make it easy to connect virtually?
Yeah, it was a pretty seamless transition because, you know, early last year, we already started doing virtual events because we noticed a lot of our members couldn't go to those meetings at LIM College or other colleges. So we started to do things virtually, and then this happened. So we were kind of like, okay, now we just kind of cancel the in-person and go fully, you know, online. And it was really important for me, at least, to provide that space. Because, you know, as we all were scared and isolated, we just needed a place to connect and keep the conversation going. And I think it helped a lot of people just feel hopeful and, you know, keep the motivation up. And, you know, as much as before, if you asked any member what their favorite part was those face-to-face meetings, were those, you know, seeing each other at events throughout New York City. I almost feel like this has made our coalition stronger. Because instead of having to or seeing each other once a month, I see a lot of these people maybe 2 times a week. And you know, this virtual setting has created a bit more intimacy, or maybe even slowing down a little bit, right? If you're working a room and moving around, this has definitely put us on a path to create stronger bonds. So I think it really has geared us up now that we're thinking about more in-person events for this year, you know, safe, socially distanced ones. A lot more partnerships are forming, or that had formed, are now collaborating more and doing more business together.
That's wonderful. And I mean, I know building partnerships is extremely important in the sustainable fashion community. Can you give us an example more of like the kind of partnerships that you guys have that if you're a member of Fair Trade Coalition, you'll benefit from?
Sure, yeah. It's really interesting how it changes seasonally. You know, we're kind of in this period right now where it's education, right? After New Year's, we're all feeling a little gluttonous through consumption of clothing or consumption of food. So it's almost this like back to school vibe. So over the past couple of weeks, we've been having our winter programming, helping businesses kind of gain these skills that are really important right now, whether it's graphic design and having a really clean, you know, brand kit, or video editing and creation is really important right now, as we're all creating little videos at home. And now we're starting to move into, like I said, more in-person events, whether we'll get to go outside and do them. We're going to do a plant swap, as well as go back to having our clothing swaps. We love those. So these kind of mini activation events. And what we're planning for this year, I'm really excited about, is actually for people to buy time tickets. So we'll only allow a certain amount of people come, you know, from 1 to 2. And as it gets closer to 2, we'll say, thank you, everyone, but Kat Schuler, you gotta go, right? Kat Schuler is the one we'll have to kick out for sure at the end. And
That's very hard to get rid of.
hard. We're gonna have to put her as a volunteer.
A bad penny in the group.
Let's be realistic here. So it will be really nice to have people come together and really, you know, focusing on experiences. But what the business members get out of this, the activation points, will have them, you know, sell their items, whether they'll have a little pop-up, or now we have a lot of members who actually have services. So whether it's tailoring services, stylists. And that's the part we're really excited about, where, you know, these business members can now work together because they're all offering kind of different, unique services or products.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So I know Kat has been very, very active with you guys. I'd love, Kat, to kind of hear your experience with the Fair Trade Coalition and the kind of activities that you've done with them.
It's just an incredible eye-opening experience for me. And when I first came, I had I was totally in the dark about sustainability. And the first thing that Andrea puts up is this giant chart from the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. And it was like a light bulb just went off. And from there, I realized that this is the blueprint that we have to follow. And I love the group, the whole timbre of the group. Andrea is just such a visionary and a forward thinker, and I just love being in her presence. And she's just so great at the helm, and you know, it kind of radiates downwards. And so I, you know, bring people to the fold, and you know, businesses that need to become sustainable, and just to get that camaraderie together. And I just love every chance I get, I participate. And, you know, I did the Regen Runway came out of that, which High Tech Moda created a sustainable platform. And I had the Fair Trade Coalition designers and some of the accessory people, you know, coming in. And it was just an incredible eye-opening experience for me. And it still is. I'm still growing and still questing for this whole sustainable thing. So I became an advocate for just the group itself, and I think that it's an amazing opportunity for people to come together, to learn, to grow. And we put the unity in community, literally, and everyone's helping each other grow their businesses and get more woke about what we need to do, and just delve in as deep as you want to get. And, you know, we're just there for each other. And I feel that it's only going to get better and more in depth and substantial, because everything I do with them is just, you know, the ethical, I reconnected with the Ethical Cultural Society, and I forgot about them. And I forgot about how much I was married there, you know, and Andrew just like, you know, said, you should come to the services. And I was like, yes, I need to do that. So everything that everyone is into radiates and resonates with my being. And I love this organization. I quit the Image Consultants International. It was just too catty and too, it wasn't generous enough. And so I am now totally, my organization, my jam is FTC.
That's wonderful. And I know, Kat, with High Tech Moda and everything that you do, Runway the Real Way, you're very passionate about the issues of inequality in the fashion industry, diversity issues, size inclusivity. And Andrea, that's something that I really found so wonderful about your organization, because it's not just sustainable fashion issues, it's really about the larger issue of inequality in the fashion industry. Can you tell us about some of those issues that, you know, we're hearing about now, that, you know, people are very concerned about, but like how you guys are actually addressing the issues of inequality in the fashion industry?
Yeah, you know, it's been an interesting journey. You know, whenever I think about where we've kind of come from and where we're going, you know, we can't start with human trafficking, right? It's a topic that's too heavy and it's too loaded with, you know, preconceived notions. So it's really kind of been an effort to, you know, meet people where they're at. So maybe it's starting with a clothing swap and saying, you know, sustainable fashion can be fun, come join us. And then slowly kind of pulling back the curtain for all the other issues, because there are a lot of issues. And, you know, there are issues that, you know, once you try to even solve some of them, then other issues come about. So it's not something that, you know, we can be sustainable. You can only be more sustainable, right? As soon as you kind of hit a level where you're using organic cotton, then you need to think about water consumption, right? So it's kind of this never ending journey. So, you know, some of the issues and even my narrative and how I present it has changed over the past couple of years. And right now it's really a message of, it's very exploitive from top to bottom, from A to Z. And we can think of it in the simplest terms of, you know, how many women work in the garment industry, how many women overseas, you know, are definitely put into conditions where they don't have rights to advocate for themselves, whether they just come from a patriarchal society and it's not, you know, it's not promoted to stand up for yourself. And then we can continue to, we're exploiting Mother Earth in a lot of ways, right? Deforestation. We can talk about, you know, how we're just pulling oil from the ground that's made into clothing. And, you know, how I've kind of looked at it even more is, you know, I used to work in the traditional fashion industry. I was a technical designer for many years. And the amount of young women that I saw coming from FIT being exploited, right? So you leave fashion school, you're dying for that job, you're dying for that entry into the industry. And, you know, you work as a tech pack designer and, you know, maybe you'll make $30,000. I've heard of people even making less than that and put in a position where, okay, you need to work till 9 p.m. And the industry really glorifies that, right? It really, busy is sexy. Like, I'm so in demand, I'm so needed, but you feel so disposable at the same time, because if you don't kind of follow those guidelines, that company culture, you're done, because there's a whole bunch of girls from New York, New Jersey that are ready to step in line. So, you know, where does that come from? It's absolutely top down. You know, I remember working, and after a decade of working and seeing all the women who had the corner offices, you know, they had been working there for 10, 15 years, but at some point getting fired and their assistant taking over because they made too much. And who held those jobs forever and ever though? The owners, who were predominantly male. So I think we can see exploitation in many different places throughout the fashion industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Dell, as the owner of True Model Management, she's spoken to us quite some time that she's seen a big shift in issues related to inclusivity and using like just more diverse people in more diverse models. Dell, what are you seeing brands as far as like their the ethically made product campaigns, the inclusivity and diversity campaigns? It's going in a great direction, isn't it?
Absolutely. Back, you know, years back, most models looked the same, were fit exact same size in clothes. If you didn't fit the clothes, you didn't get the job. You needed the height, everything that you think of as a traditional model. And like Andrea said before about being more sustainable, I think it's now like be more diverse, be more inclusive, because there probably never will be enough, but we are headed in the right direction. And just having all groups and talks like this, and now that more and more people are online, it can be spread exponentially globally. And the word is out there and people are catching on and paying attention. I think most people do want to do the right thing, and probably many people for years didn't even know they were doing anything wrong. You know, it was just the way things were. So I'm very happy with the direction. Of course, it can always improve, but keep spreading the word. And communities like the New York City Fair Trade Coalition are unbelievable. They're always there to support. They've got advocacy on so many levels, and you could do as little or as much as you want with a group. They're always there to hold a hand if you need help, or if you've got a great idea, they're like, oh, let's, you know, brainstorm about that and put it into action. So if you haven't checked them out already, you should definitely look into membership and joining the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I want to bring Sharon in because we had a couple of great sessions last year on Mingle Mastermind where we talked about B corporations. And Andrea, do you have many members that are B Corps? Are you aware?
We have a handful, and I would say that's really, in my eyes, the gold standard. So I think we're all kind of herding them in that direction that you hope you can, kind of grow big enough, because you need to be a certain size business wise to make it worth it. But yeah, B Corps are great. I was actually on their website this morning buying things for myself, like looking for companies to buy things from.
Oh, that's great. Well, so Sharon is the attorney for Rockamova Law, and they specialize in business law and startup setups, things like that, but also fashion law. So tell us about B Corp, Sharon, and like what's the process to look into that to see if it's right for you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melissa. Yes. So, as you mentioned, Andrea, I mean, sustainability is really truly the way to go. And if you're not in the business of having sustainable practice, you're going to be soon out of business, because what the pandemic has shown us is that there is no room for errors, and people are looking for better ways of doing things, not just for themselves, but for the planet. And as you mentioned, getting certified as a B corporation is certainly that stamp of approval that you've gone through the rigorous practices, and you have the process in place that truly does business, not just for yourself, but using business as a force for good. I mean, that's their slogan. But that's truly what it is. And it's essentially any business that balances not just their profits, but their mission, their purpose, and has a greater good, and is obviously sustainable practices is at the heart of having those businesses. Just so statistically, at current count, there's 3,821 companies that are certified in over 150 industries, 74 countries. And that's, obviously that number is growing because, Melissa, when we did the B Corporation seminar, last year, that was 2,500 or so. So they've grown a lot in less than a year, just from obviously experiencing things like the pandemic that has awoken a lot of businesses to sustainable practices. Big names like Eileen Fisher is now on there, Allbirds, Patagonia. But as you mentioned, it is something that you have to strive for. A great thing is about B Corp certification, you take the assessment and it's totally free, and it shows you where you are in terms of getting that certification. You have to meet certain qualifications. So you go through their free assessment, internal procedures, external things. You have to analyze your sourcing, your processing, your fabrics, everything, every part of your business, including, the inclusion, diversity, literally taking every single factor of your business into consideration in determining whether you're eligible for certification. And once you're there, you're literally at the top with these global leaders that you get to not only, connect with and learn from, these amazing experts that have been doing this for a while, but differentiate your business from any other business with that seal, that certification seal. So if you are a sustainable practice and you're looking to get to that next level of success, and also just learning more about how do you get to be more sustainable, then I would definitely recommend going to the website. I'll put it in the chat box. It's bcorporation.net, and taking their assessment and seeing where you're at. I had a question for you, Andrea, since you do work with some. Does your coalition help brands in trying to get certified? Is that something that you can help them, fix those issues that come up in the assessment?
Yes and no. At first we were really trying to share with them the different types of certifications. There seems to be always new ones, and trying to figure out where you fit into the mix. And, my thoughts behind it are there's kind of that starter certification where it's like self-audited, and then you grow your business and you have more money to play with, and you figure out what your supply chain is. Am I doing organic or am I doing natural dye? And then figuring out what certifications work for you. We work closely with Fair Trade USA, and they have a good relationship with B Corps. But I still think we're kind of in this education mode, figuring out which one is right for us. And then if anybody does, kind of express interest, pointing them in that direction of, how to find more resources.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I know that it's, the important part about the Fair Trade Coalition is how, you're trying to stop the reliance on fast fashion. And, during this pandemic, it's been a really odd situation for the future of fast fashion, because so many retail stores have shut down. So you're not shopping for entertainment anymore. But, you can easily just buy something cheap from China on Amazon, and get it delivered in 2 days. So can you talk to us about what you're seeing as far as the trends in people's shopping habits? And, do you have any suggestions for how people can just, instead of buying more clothes, what can you do to have a better, a life that's better for the planet?
Leave us.
Do we have another 2 hours? So, it's kind of hard to answer that question because the industry or the consumer base is so fragmented, right? Like there are those who are going to shop fast fashion regardless, that's their price point and they love that instant gratification, and, they're going to still consume. Overall, I think we can all agree that we're all more comfortable, right? We're all wearing clothing, whether it's at whatever price range. We are certainly wearing a lot more things that stretch. And not wanting to be so restricted. And I'm curious where that's going to go. But, speaking of so many fragmented consumers, even within like the conscious consuming, group there, it's still pretty fragmented there, even with our own individual behavior. So I may buy, organic undergarments, right? And I might buy it from an H&M, right? Because they have a lot of organic items. I may even buy it from Walmart because Walmart has a lot of organic cotton going on there. And it may be cheap because it's something in my eyes that, is something that I'm going to consume a lot of over my lifetime. But I may spend a significant more money on some vegan shoes, right? I may find value in that. I may want to buy a luxury handbag because I see some sustainability there. This is an investment piece that I'm going to use for a long time. I may do my vintage or secondhand coat or, sweaters and go to thread up. So, we have all of the shopping ability at our fingertips. So we can really kind of pull it together in a variety of different ways. And, in my eyes, there's no 100% right way to do it, but it's just constantly trying to do better. And I hope that this past year, as we were all sitting at home, we at least found some new resources and a lot more time to do research, right? Because I think that's what it really comes down to, is not just research based on what the websites are telling us, because a lot of times they put out, the best information, but referrals from friends, right? That is a lot nowadays how we shop. We see somebody wearing it, whether it's a friend or an influencer, or, somebody gives us a recommendation. There are so many times within our little groups of, hey, I'm looking for some sleepwear that's, sustainable and ethical in some way, shape, or form, and passing around those resources. So I think that will certainly continue. And I think, we've just seen the secondhand market explode over the past year. 150 billion garments are made every year, 150 billion garments. I'm really curious to see how that's going to change this year as so many companies, as you mentioned, either disappeared or shrank. I'm really curious if a lot of businesses are just reducing their SKUs, reducing their product line in general, as a lot of these businesses are actually doing what Eileen Fisher does, trying to do buyback programs and figure out ways to collect their items, which really works in their favor if they can do that and then resell them. So I really think that's kind of the trend, whether that's on a Poshmark or the Real. I think that's really going to continue.
Mhm. Uh, Speaking of the buyback programs, and you brought up H&M, that H&M's always been a company that, they're people, say they're doing greenwashing and so forth. Can you give us like your assessment of how you think they're actually doing in this process? And then also I'm very curious to know more about Walmart and their organic lines, and how you like, can you actually see that? Is it on the tag that it's organic? How do you know it's organic cotton?
So H&M is the company that we say we love to hate, because they are a perfect example, or so many young people shopped at H&M, learned about sustainability that way, and kind of started their journey of sustainability that way, right? I remember as a young woman going to FIT, bringing my secondhand clothing there, getting a little discount, and then like, oh, this world of sustainability, let me figure out more. And then quickly realizing like, oh, this is not so sustainable, and quickly went out the back door and onto my journey to other things. So I love H&M for how many people they've brought into the conversation. I think we have to give them props there. Obviously H&M is going to get a lot more criticism because they're putting themselves out there, because they talk about this, as opposed to a Zara, right? That has maybe a more sustainable supply chain based on how they produce things. I think they have less waste because they have more control. But H&M, like I said, is a part of the conversation. And I think that's what what they've done well, at least.
Well, bringing up Zara, that's a really good point, because it's like Zara has some things that make their company a little bit better for the planet. H&M is doing different things. So in a way, that's kind of what you're talking about, like companies being more sustainable. How can you take the next step? No one's perfect, right? Except maybe Eileen Fisher.
Eileen Fisher is very interesting, because if you talk to their team and ask them what percentage of clothing that they make, the garment workers are receiving a living wage, and it's like 41%. So they're the first ones to admit that they're still, participating in labor conditions that are not, providing people basic living income. But putting that aside for a moment, if you think, as you were talking, if it wasn't marketed or it wasn't put on Instagram, did it happen, or does it matter, right? So if you look at a Walmart has probably done more for sustainability than most other companies, but since they don't advertise it, or we don't think of them in that way, does it even matter what sustainability things they did? Yes, it definitely does. That size of a company. So Walmart and Patagonia, they were the two companies that got behind and started the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. And the Sustainable Apparel Coalition is a very, very, very important organization that has had some setbacks. So they've signed on numerous factories and brands and have helped them really find out the science behind the impact that their facilities have or their businesses have. And I say they've had some setbacks because before the pandemic, they were collecting all this information that they were going to disclose to consumers. So consumers were going to be able to see, what companies had the largest carbon emissions or what companies had the largest water consumption. But because the whole supply chain got messed up and they had to put everything on hold, they weren't able to, continue bringing all those metrics in. So I haven't connected with them in a while. So I'm not exactly sure where they are in that timeline to share that information, but it is still an indispensable resource to brands. There's a tool that I use with my students where you can go on and you click and compare leather to wool. You can compare polyester to nylon, and it shows you the actual science behind the impact of those fabrics and fibers. And you would be surprised. You would be very, very, very surprised which ones are actually high impact and which ones are lower impact.
Wow, that is amazing, because you hear these little things in the news or on social media about one thing being worse than the other, and then it's almost like paralyzing. You know, you don't know what to buy, you know, or which companies to shop at. Del, I know you're in the world of branding, with shooting all these campaigns with models. What do you know some specific brands that are being that are actually promoting what they're doing for sustainability and inclusivity?
Absolutely. There are so many brands now. And one of the early on companies for size inclusivity was Universal Standard. And I'm so proud of them and how they've kind of pioneered. Before them, Ashley Stewart, there are many other great companies, but to become all size inclusive, I found that fantastic. And as far as inclusivity, Rihanna's helped with Fenty, and Becca at Chromat. Christian Siriano's been unbelievable. And in addition to size inclusivity, we're finding now there's inclusivity for height. We're getting many requests for shorter models, and one of our top models right now is 5'4", and she is gorgeous and ethnically diverse, and checks all the boxes, and everyone is really talking about what they can do to include all ages and all adaptabilities and special needs. As far as prosthetics and wheelchairs, we're getting a lot of requests. If you know anyone that wants to model and has is wheelchair bound, we are getting a lot of requests lately. So I mean, I would love to promote more of that as well. As far as sustainability, one of the companies that I worked for about 30 years ago was called Under the Canopy, and was one of the first sustainable brands of clothing that I had heard of. And Marcy Zaroff was the founder of that company, as well as many others after that. She is like the eco pioneer and coined a lot of the terms that everyone uses today. I highly recommend her book, Eco Renaissance. It is like a sustainable life guide that I've never seen before. Every single page I was like highlighting and Googling, like, wow, I have to check out this company. I want to read this. I want to learn more about this. I want to go here. I mean, it's got everything from the clothes to wear, the hotels to go to, people to meet, cosmetics to use. And with the cosmetics, there's one I actually got called to do a job. They wanted a more mature woman, and they hired several of our models, and they wanted all different skin tones. It was one, but also they wanted all ages. We were promoting their lipstick, and it's called Color the World. And everything about it is sustainable and ethically.
That's cool. So this is you put it in chat. It's the Eco Renaissance, Marcy Zaroff.
Yep, I could put it in the chat for everybody so they could check it out. Yeah, I was really impressed with it. I've known Marcy for years and knew she was great at all this, but when I got her book, there you go.
Awesome. So that's wonderful. Andrea, Laurel is asking if you could tell us where they can find this tool where you can see the comparisons between nylon and leather.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. You know, I'm not exactly sure what is accessible to the public. I'm lucky enough teaching at LIM, I get access to, so it's the Higg index is the way, oh, sorry, auto-corrected me to high. So Higg index, and then it's the Sustainable Apparel Coalition.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds fascinating. Can you, are there any, I don't know, are there any kind of shopping apps or something out there, like where we're, you know, when we're out shopping, we can compare brands to see which ones are better on ethical issues.
You good?
Yeah, Kat, you have a recommendation? Because I think of more of looking at my closet and having a checklist of what I need, what I want, and kind of budgeting that. But do you have a resource?
Do good is one. Yeah.
Okay, do good. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
put that in the.
DOGOOD.
Okay, so people can look that up and see if that helps at all. We've only got about 10 minutes left, so I want to talk to you. I know you guys have done so many workshops over the years, so I want to know if you're doing any workshops now. And then I'd like to hear a little bit more about Bernadette and the services that you offer through that.
Sure, yeah. So we have a few events coming up. I'm really, really excited about the one on Tuesday. So one of our members, she's very involved right now with the farm protests that are going on in India. I don't know if any of you have heard about these, but it's the largest protest in human history. And she does these anti-racism workshops. And she is such an impactful speaker. She's done ethical storytelling. So how do we communicate without, once again, exploiting people that don't have a voice? So I really encourage you guys. It's a free event Tuesday afternoon. So yeah, we're always hosting new things. We always have new things in the pipeline. I'm excited. In March, we're gonna do the evolution of the revolution. So we definitely, as we talk about fashion and women working in this industry, looking back historically a little bit and thinking about us as women, we've only had the right to vote for 100 years, and we really need a larger majority in our government and in our representatives. So we're really pushing, all of our members to someday in the future run for some sort of office and gain more power and more of a voice. But yeah, so, and then, the Fair Trade Coalition is a nonprofit. And then my business that's evolved from working with artisans in Uganda has really evolved to now mentoring business owners, whether they're in startup phase or later on. So I think of myself as a sustainable fashion mentor. A lot of us, as we're starting our businesses or growing our businesses, we kind of feel like we're in a silo. We're making these decisions on our own. Our friends and family don't understand why we don't have a 9-to-5 job. So I really kind of work as a support system to you. So whether we meet an hour a week and just kind of go over goals or share ideas about how you can have more of a experiential marketing, I'm a big fan of that. Or as you're growing your business or starting your business, taking your customers along the journey with you. I think there's so many things, so many tips and tricks and tools that startups have at their disposal. They just need to be able to prioritize and organize and not get stuck at, the point that they're an expert at. Because as a small business owner, you really have to become an expert at everything.
Yeah, yeah. Shireen can definitely speak to that. You actually have quite a few brands that you're working with that are sustainable, right, Shireen?
Yes, I'm definitely been working with a lot of sustainable brands in the fashion, in the beauty industry. And as I said, we're seeing it more and more, especially after the pandemic. I think that was like a huge shift that has happened to push more brands to really become more aware. We had a few on our panel the last time. Piper and Sky is one. They've really, I could say, blown it out of the park by, going through the process of becoming more sustainable. They've actually become more popular now. I mean, they're in all of the major magazines and are being promoted on, top lists now. And it's all organic, and it's all due to the fact that they are differentiating themselves through their sustainable practice and making that a huge part of their mission. And another part of their mission that I'm working with, not just that band, but a lot of other brands, is the giving back. And, there's a new shoe company that Melissa is aware of as well, and part of their mission is to give back to the communities that, you know, don't have dance shoes available. The Equal Dance Initiative is the name of the company, and making so it's not just about the products themselves, but also about the mission and giving back to the communities that are less fortunate, and in being able to, you know, include others in such a, you know, a space that's not always available for everyone. So I'm truly honored to be working with these brands and helping them, you know, evolve missions.
Sorry about that.
And yeah, it's been a great process, and it's always, as you mentioned, Andrea, there's always more to do. You know, it's not a stop, it's a growth, and you just have to keep, you know, looking at every single part of your business and just start addressing them one by one. And how do we, you know, how do we do the, you know, the external aspect of it, and then look internally, and how do we help our own employees and our own communities, and through that, I think truly, you know, by focusing on the sustainability practices of a brand, you're actually truly bringing in a community together, and strengthening everyone, and raising the bar, you know. So if, for example, if a company like Eileen Fisher is recognizing that they need to do better with their workers and wage wise, then other companies are going to start to also follow suit. And, you know, that's how we're going to truly make differences. You know, we don't need to wait for government to do that. We can do that on our own as a business, and take responsibility for our community and our customers, and give back what they've been giving to us. And that's the only way to continue to feed through that. So it's been, as I said, a true honor to be working with these businesses that are looking to, you know, continuously evolve themselves and their communities.
And I'm going to put the link again to the YouTube mastermind we did of the B Corps last year, because it does feature two of Sharon's clients that have sustainable handbag lines, and they are B corporations. So you'll really learn a lot about how they do their sourcing. One is like just starting the B Corp direction. The other one is quite advanced. So it is really a good way of understanding like what the requirements are to be B Corp, because it does require you to renew each year, which I think is fantastic. So please check out that YouTube video as well. Let's see, we had, I also put in the link. We had somebody ask about the Higg index, and so I put that link in there. I Googled the link, so you guys can explore that website and see if you can find the tool that Andrea had access to. And someone else also mentioned goodonyou.eco is another company that helps you. Oh, and then the Boycott app. So instead of boycott, it's Boycott. That's clever. Thanks for that resource, Dell, as well. So, well, I appreciate everybody's input today. It's really exciting to see the direction we're going. I remember remember when you couldn't find organic food at the grocery store, and your only option was like going to a farmer's market or finding some weird co-op somewhere. And now it's like, it's everywhere. And so it's exciting that, you know, sustainable fashion is really going in that direction too. It's like people are insisting that they want it. And then I think some companies too are finding that you know, there's ways to save money in the supply chain by doing this. It's not, everybody used to think, oh, organic food is so much more expensive to create, but because so many people are doing it now, the prices come down. And that's the same with sustainable fashion, right, Andrea?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, if Walmart's getting into the business of it, there's definitely profit to be made there. And I think, you know, agreeing with Sharon and everyone else that, you know, for brands, it's not just about showcasing what they're doing well, but it's showing the good, the bad, the ugly, and how you're going to do better, because that shows authenticity, and authenticity builds loyalty. So if I were to give any advice to, you know, these big brands moving forward, is don't shy away from showing, you know, where you hope to go and how you hope to do better, because I think that will pay off in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also just saw another mention in the chat from Jennifer with Ozone. She's going to be, she does a sustainable 3D digitization service that is for the supply chain. It's really helping save money through creating, you know, the waste that we have in creating samples.
Mhm.
And so they demoed their technology to me last month. And so we're going to have them on, I think in March, to learn about those types of that type of technology that's becoming so available. Do you have any technology members in your coalition, Andrea?
You know, I can't really think off the top of my head. I think we definitely do. You know, it's interesting that technology is kind of omnipresent, you know, so right now we have a brand that came out that their fabric, they're using tencel, so from wood pulp, but the lining of the underwear is silver tech. So it's laced with silver, which is antibacterial. So it's like, is that tech in some sort of way? It's almost the golden age of textiles right now, where so many new and interesting textiles are coming out. So, you know, I tell my students a lot of the time, you can't just get into fashion right now, right? We don't necessarily need any more alpaca sweaters, unfortunately, but you need to have fashion X something else. So fashion X technology, fashion X health, fashion X mental health, right? Partner with some other industry. And, you know, when you're thinking about a business or growing a business, choose a problem that you're trying to solve, right? Don't be a part of the problems by just bringing something into existence that probably doesn't really need to be in existence. So find a problem and try to solve it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point, Andrea. I mean, and I'm sure Sharon, you know, talks to this as she's counseling her new businesses that come online. You need to have something unique about your brand, and there's just nothing better than to tie it to something like sustainability or inclusivity, adaptability, all these different things that really are pushing the fashion industry forward, because people like us are promoting it and insisting on it. And that makes big change in the industry, because the larger companies are hearing the conversation and realizing if they want our dollars, they're going to have to also get on board with sustainable and eco-friendly issues.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. If you're not a member of Fashion Mingle yet, hop on to fashionmingle.com and sign up as a free member. We're in the process of building a jobs platform, and we're very excited. We have the fashion directory connecting over 200 cities around the world with fashion professionals, over 100 categories of fashion professionals in the directory. And so the next step is to get everybody working. And so we have been working on creating the jobs portal, and it's going to help you find full-time jobs, part-time jobs, freelance projects, interns, also even barter opportunities and volunteer opportunities. So it's really looking at how the fashion industry runs, the human capital that it uses, and that's not always through a traditional corporate job. So we're really excited to be debuting that in the next couple of months. And so now is a great time to become a member, because then we'll be able to bring you in to beta test it and help us work out the kinks, and also promote your business and give you the opportunity to post jobs and direct access to our student interns. We have a very large database of fashion school students that will be looking for interns. So have a great weekend, everybody. It was great to talk about this subject, and Andrea, really, really appreciate your time and everything you do to make the world a better place.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.